Hi everyone. Good evening. This is probably the last talk of the entire OWASP New Zealand Day program, and I'm more than happy to present here today on the art of espionage, unleashing the power of SCADA hacking. Yeah. So a little bit about myself. My name is Shahmeer Amir. I am currently ranked third bug bounty hunter in the world. I have, you know, worked for more than 500 companies, identifying 10,000 vulnerabilities across them in their web applications and mobile applications. I'm currently running 3 companies at the same time. I've written a few books on the topic, and I'm also doing my PhD in applied blockchain security. Okay, so since I'm not officially there, I can, I really can't see all of your hands, but I really, I always try to keep these things sort of interactive. Do you guys have any idea, or like, do you guys have any intuition of who created the first known computer virus? Any one of you, show of hands. Yeah, it was basically sort of a group of Pakistani um, brothers that actually created the first known computer virus. It was called the brain computer virus. It was basically transferred from floppy disk to floppy disk, and what happened was that particular computer virus just overwrote the bad sectors inside the floppy disk and transferred from one disk to another. That's it. That's what it did, and it just displayed a message. And that computer virus actually made its way to F-Secure Labs and to this person called Mikko Hipponen, who then came to Lahore, Pakistan, to meet these guys. But yeah, I think we can all agree to one fact that the 5 things that you see here on the screen, these are the 5 national building blocks of any nation or of any particular country. What if they all sort of went out? What if they all of them or one of them vanished for some reason? Look at your screen right now. This is basically Detroit. In 2003, August 13, this is Detroit. This is what happened to Detroit. What happened was that some part or most part of Detroit actually lost power. Approximately 30 million people did not have access to power or electricity. And that was not because of, that was not because of a mechanical fault. It was basically a technical bug that occurred. And how did it occur? At that time, that was the first advent of what we call SCADA today. SCADA is basically something that we call supervisory control, a supervisory control data acquisition. It's basically a system that allows industrial control systems and human interface machines to directly interact with centrifuges, any sort of control systems that are connected to some sort of power grid or a mass information or electronic delivery system. So a SCADA consists of sort of five main components. There's a remote terminal unit, there's a programmable logic controller, a telemetry system, a data acquisition server, and a human interface machine. SCADA works on a couple of protocols. Now this is important because I don't know if we'll have time for a few demos or not, but this is very, very important that these are the protocols that SCADA works on. Modbus, which works on port 502, DNP port, which works on port 1 Tetra 9. We have DNP3, which works on 20,000. And then, Ethernet IP, EtherCAT, Profinet, and all these. These are basically, ports and their relative protocols that SCADA uses to communicate back and forth with manufacturers. Most SCADAs and most of these protocols often use PLCs or programmable logic controllers, although a lot of these protocols just rely on Ethernet or network. Yeah, so let's look at some popular hacks in SCADA. And we're going to get back to all of these hacks one by one. The first known hack that ever happened was Stuxnet. And we're going to dig a bit deep into this. It was the first and one of the most complex malware that was ever known. Every attack or every malware that has been developed after this has been a continuation of this malware. It was on the Iranian nuclear program. Then we have Night Dragon, which was a series of TTPs. These attacks targeted, global oil, energy, and petrochemical companies. Both of these happened in 2010, and then we had, the Dooku, Flame, and Gauze. These were three related malware families in 2011. What they basically did was one of them gathered information and disguised data transmissions as normal HTTP traffic. Flame was complex. It used, microphones, webcams, and key logging to steal information. And Gauze Gauze basically stole information, including passwords and network connections, etc. Then in 2012, Saudi Aramco was hacked. It was basically a hack by a malware called Shahmeer that overwrote data on 30,000 computers, burning a lot of images in the process, which affected Saudi Aramco systems gravely. Yeah, and then in 2013, the New York small dam in New York was accessed by Iranian hackers. The intrusion was not elaborate enough, but the malware that was used was called Havix. What Havix did was, it was an advanced malware that targeted the SCADA system. Malware communicated for the first time with a C2 infrastructure. That was a public C2 infrastructure, and it could send instructions to provide enhanced unknown capabilities to the malware. 2014, the German steel mill was hacked. It's still unknown as to who hacked it or what happened, but this was the German steel industry is very well known for providing diverse automobiles and different kinds of machines. It's one of the largest steel mills in the world. Again, in 2014, we had Black Energy, which was Black Energy was also like Havix. It targeted important SCADA systems at their HMI master stations. Then in 2015, the Ukrainian power grid was actually hacked, which was a big deal because the attackers shut off 30 substations, leaving around 230,000 people without electricity for up to 6 hours. Then we had the Khmuri, the water company, in 2016, Verizon Security Solutions, said that the Khmuri attack was on an undisclosed water company, and this affected access to fresh water to most part of North America. Then we had the Sam attack on the city of Atlanta, where the attackers for the first time demanded a public ransom of $51,000 in cryptocurrency. Now these were some of the viruses that we looked at. In 2013-12, I told you the Simoon virus targeted 30,000 computers. In 2013, attackers had access to HVAC systems and stole credit card data of up to 70 million target customers. Then the New York Dam thing happened, and the intrusion basically was not elaborate, since it was simply a test by attackers if they could see what they could access. Then the German steel mill, black energy, the Ukrainian power grid, Kimuri, now this is what we call the advent of the start of cyber espionage into cyber warfare. This was a malware called Indestroyer. It was the first ever malware specifically designed to attack electrical grids. This was the fourth piece of SCADA-tailored malware that was used against specific targets with Stuxnet and with the likes of Black Energy too. And was the second malware designed to target or disrupt physical industrial processes. Stuxnet was the first. Now, I want you to keep in mind the protocol of Modbus, which works on a specific port that we looked at, because this will be important. Now, we all know how to use Shodan, right? We all know how we can use Shodan to interact with different online SCADA systems. We just have to go in there and type in service Modbus or the port Modbus, and what it'll do is it'll give us a list of vulnerable Modbus demos. These are basically memory addressing for the address sizes of a double word, byte, or a bit. If you find a vulnerable SCADA system online, or if you have access to a SCADA system without logging in, you can directly interact with the SCADA system and interact with actual physical components using these keywords. This is a list that I personally curated based on the testing of the SCADA system that I've done. Now, what we need to understand is that there are certain memory addresses that are read-write, there are certain memory addresses that are read-only, and there are certain memory addresses that are write-only. And the types are, discrete output coils, discrete input contacts, analog input registers, analog output holding registers. Now, you're seeing here that, these are different, we have the Schneider addresses and the Modicon addresses. Now, Modbus is a protocol, and the Schneider and Modicon addresses are interaction addresses that we use to interact with the SCADA system based on the protocol that is Modbus. Now, as you can see here, if you have a version of Modbus, if you have Kali, you can just type in Modbus read help, Modbus write help, and Modbus dump help. It'll give you the parameters, it'll give you the addresses, and it'll give you the actual values that you can use to interact with the SCADA system. And it's a perfectly easy demo to do. You go to Shodan, You type in Modbus, you'll find out different kinds of vulnerable SCADA systems, and then you can use the Modbus utility to interact with those SCADA systems fairly easily. As you can see that I'm doing here, I've just, hidden the IP here, but if you type in Modbus read and M120, and if we go back, we'll be able to see what person M120 does. Yeah, it's a Schneider address, and from 1 to 99, it's basically reading discrete output coils. And these are currently the operational outputs of those output coils. Like if we type in 120 right here, we'll see that 4 of the first coils are on, off, one is on, the other is off, the other 2 are on, one is malfunctioning, the other is also malfunctioning. So 1000 means that it's working, 0 means that it's not working, and any other character with a specific digit or agenda for this particular output means that it's either working or there's some fault in it. So Modbus is a good utility to play around with if you're a SCADA expert. And yeah, similarly, you can read and write to basically those output coils, which means that Modbus protocols are generally without any authentication, so you can read or write upon those coils moving forward, which will give you an idea of how you can specifically target those coils in any case scenario. Yeah, but where does it all start? Like, we can go all day on, me telling you, me giving you demonstrations on how to hack SCADA systems technically. But where did it all start? It started with something called Stuxnet. Let's have a look on what Stuxnet is.
In June last year, a computer virus called Stuxnet was discovered lurking in the databanks of power plants, traffic control systems, and factories around the world. 20 times more complex than any previous virus code, it had an array of capabilities. Among them, the ability to turn up the pressure inside nuclear reactors or switch off oil pipelines, and Stuxnet could tell the system operators everything was normal. Unlike most viruses, Stuxnet doesn't carry the usual forged security clearance that helps viruses burrow into systems. It actually had a real clearance, stolen from one of the most reputable computer technology companies in the world. It exploited security gaps that system creators are unaware of. These holes are known as 0 days, and the most successful viruses exploit them. The details of a 0 day can be sold on the black market for $100,000. Stuxnet took advantage of 20 0 days. But once it got into a system, it didn't always activate. Buried deep in the Stuxnet code was a specific target. Without that target, the virus remained dormant. What was it looking to shut down? The centrifuges that spin nuclear material at Iran's enrichment facilities. Stuxnet was a weapon, the first to be made entirely out of code. The Washington-based Institute for Science and International Security says the virus may have shut down 1,000 centrifuges at Natanz, Iran's main enrichment facility, last year. In November, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN's nuclear watchdog, said Iran had suspended work at its nuclear facilities without explaining why. Many observers credited Stuxnet. Last month, the Iranian government conceded the virus's infection of the Bashir nuclear facility, still under construction, meant that switching the plant on could lead to a national electricity blackout. Iran has responded to the attack with an open call for hackers to join the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and has reportedly amassed the second largest online army in the world. So who was behind the Stuxnet? There's no evidence beyond rumor. Some have it that Israel is responsible because the virus code apparently contains references to the Hebrew Bible. Others believe the US was involved in the testing and development. The finger has even been pointed at Siemens mobile phone company, whose software is used by the Iranian regime. The most important question may not be who designed it, but who will redesign it. The evolution has been so fast that 9 months after its detection, the first virus that could crash power grids or destroy oil pipelines is available online for anyone to download and tinker with. You can watch people on YouTube pulling Stuxnet apart. It's an open source weapon. And there's no way of knowing who will use it or what they will use it for.
Interesting, right? Yeah, so how does Stuxnet work? There were 6 stages: infection, search, update, compromise, control, and destroy. If we dissect the Stuxnet code, we find out that Stuxnet basically automatically executes itself, drops files onto the systems by exploiting a vulnerability in various Windows versions. And it basically allows malicious code to run by creating a shortcut icon. This malware appears to target the businesses using Siemens Symantec WinCC database applications. Stuxnet did not come in through the internet. Stuxnet came in using removable USBs. And when it was attached to a particular system, it created a .lnk shortcut file which point to the control panel, and the module triggers the vulnerability, which allows automatic execution of the malware without user interaction. So on execution, Stuxnet basically dropped these 2 files, mrxcls.sys and mrxnet.sys. This is dropped into the Windows System 32 drivers folder. And then an encrypted DLL is the Trojan dropper, that is the main component. And then an encrypted data file. An alert user may be able to recognize the presence of Stuxnet infection if the following items are present. As you know, these 2 drop files should not be in the Windows driver folder, but most users did not. And then the encrypted DLL contained in the dropped OEM7A PNF file is injected into the process using the structure that is shown. The injection is performed by mrxcls.sys file, which is basically responsible for attaching and copying the DLLs into the target process. The rest of the injection routine is carried out by 2 additional components that are embedded in the mrxcls, which are also loaded into the same process space. And the sys file injects into these processes: services.exe, svc host, and isas.exe. These are, by the way, the main processes that are required to govern the network system, throughout this entire process. Now, this is basically the payload. I'm not going to go into much details, but this payload basically relied on modifying the file infrastructure. Meanwhile, the DLL attempts to connect to any available Siemens Symantec WinCC applications using a hard-coded username and password. If it's successfully connected, it attempts to locate the .sav in all database names and then starts with the CC. Stuxnet was a creation. It was an elegant and beautiful malware. The main reason that it remained undetected was that it basically wrapped itself to a temp file, such as the one that is already shown, and it piggybacked onto the following APIs. Now, these are the APIs that are used to query Windows systems. To this day, you can use the same attack, Siemens S700 PLC system. You can go online and you can use Google Docs and identify Siemens S700 PLC systems, and you'll be able to gain administrative access to these systems very, very easily without having to directly use a malware or any of that sort of stuff. Okay, the organizers told me I don't have much time. But I think we can all agree that the things that you see in front of you right now are basically weapons of mass destruction. I think we can all agree to the fact that the B-2 stealth bomber, the Virginia submarine, which is known as the nuclear football, or the Gerald aircraft carrier. These are weapons of mass destruction that are worth billions of dollars. Let's see and look. Let's try to understand how much Stuxnet costed at that particular moment in time. Stuxnet at that time did not cost more than $100 million, which is peanuts as compared to these, humongous monsters right here. Let's look a little bit on the Russian and Ukrainian cyber war, and then we'll talk about them.
There are two very important ways in which it's contributed to the war. One is particularly in the early stages. I think you saw some actually reasonably effective Russian operations against Ukrainian military capabilities. So in the compromise of the Viasat satellite communications provider, it appears that was well coordinated with Russia's initial ground invasion to try to weaken the Ukrainian ability to communicate. And it wasn't the cyber aspect, if you like, that let down that campaign. It was the wider deficiencies in Russian planning. Then secondly, we've seen contest on both sides, and not confined to state actors in the information domain. That's doing things like taking down websites, it's spreading misinformation, it's denying access to information, it's seeking to undermine confidence in each side's leadership and their ability to manage the way of life. So it's very important as the information domain in all wars, it's a very important secondary aspect of it. So I think it should over time lead to an interesting reappraisal of our approach to cyber capabilities. They're important, they're potent, but they're limited. And in my view, they don't really count as primary capabilities. I don't think we're going to change decisively the outcome of war. A very well executed, single targeted,
Okay. So guys, we're almost out of time, but I'm sure in future sessions I'd like to explain to you, my work on something called Indestroyer 2, which is a follow-on of the Indestroyer malware, which was the evolution of Stuxnet. Over these years, I've developed considerable expertise in SCADA systems and industrial control systems, and I have been able to work with some of the top teams in the world in reverse engineering these malwares. Coming from a web application security and a network security background, it helped out a lot. But I'm sure when or if in the future we have more time, I'll be able to explain Indestroyer 2, which was the evolution of Stuxnet, which was something that was used in the Russian-Ukrainian cyber war to shut down power grid operations in Ukraine. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, everyone, and I hope that you enjoyed or learned something from today's session. And it has been an honor to speak at this amazing conference. And yeah, that's all from me. Thank you so much, guys.